Good afternoon, everyone. It's going to be a very intriguing and interesting topic which we are going to have a discussion about. The challenges for real estate industry in adapting new VHT technologies. When we say new technologies, these new technologies are not supposed to be some standalone enhancements in operating logics, but they should be a proper integrated systems into the building where they manage efficient people flow. And also the user experience should be enhanced in such a manner that everything that's whichever are the new technologies being used are seamlessly blended into the building. So with this, to understand the challenges in real estate industry, what we are currently going through, first we need to understand how elevators are doing in the current market. So I would want to go to Amit. What exactly is the kind of elevator market growth we see currently, and going forward to the next decade, how do we perceive it?
Okay, can you hear me? So good afternoon everyone, and Jagadish ji, thank you for the question, and we have a very good panel here. Elevator industry has been a little up and down, and it goes through a cycle, as we know. So this is a very good cycle to be in, because the industry is doing very well, and the reason is that the economy is doing very well generally. So when we look at the real estate as a sector, this is the prime time. So if you remember, between 2010 and 14, we had an extremely good 4 years, but this time it will be even longer. And the reasons are many. We of course were down with COVID, so there was a latent demand that got built up. Plus the momentum in the economy itself and the building of infrastructure, that's helped the real estate industry to grow. And with the government's focus on affordable housing on one hand, and a lot of real estate latent demand that was there, plus more money being created in the system, is getting people to buy a lot more. Other thing is investments are coming into India. I think that's important, because right now if you look at the world, it's not a very good situation. Europe's going through its own issues because of the war. America is now, they've done well, but not that strong. China had some of the issues. A lot of good things are happening in India, and the momentum is there. So whatever the government, of course, the central government or the governments in the state, they're very focused on the infrastructure development, which means also in the real estate. So if real estate goes up, directly proportional is the elevator and escalator industry. So a lot of residential projects coming up, a lot of commercial projects coming up. People are now back in offices, and more so, there's a lot of innovation in the offices that's going on. And then the retail segment in India, at least from a retail mall perspective, is not going down. I can see a lot of retail malls even now coming up. A lot of people say, I'm in a digital era of Amazon and whatnot, and Myntra and all that. That's also picking up, and so is the other retail sector. It's become more competitive, and so people still want to go and buy things and look at it. So I can see this industry going really, really well. I think this will last longer. Of course, we have elections, so we don't know. There might be a little bit of a little bit of a slowdown for a very short period, if at all. But otherwise, I think in the long term, next 7 to 8 years, my guess is it's going to grow very well. And especially when you look at the elevator and industry and the escalator industry, two or three things I'd like to mention. You talked about technology. Technology is getting more and more important. One is for a good people flow, but also for safety, because now there are what we call IoT based connected services being offered. The government is getting serious on the Lift Act. So all that is being offered, which means safety is becoming so important. An elevator is no longer a luxury, it's a necessity now. Yeah, aging population as well on one hand, youngsters wanting to make life a little easy. So for safety, all this IoT connected services and then monitoring remotely so that you can predict failures even before they happen is getting very, very big, and people want to travel very safely and nicely. Lastly, of course, I'd like to also mention that the technology is such that people want to enjoy the short ride they have. Sometimes there's music in elevator, there's glass and all that. So that becomes interesting. At least, from a Kone perspective, we look at all these areas. But generally in the industry, that's very dominant. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Amit. Growth brings challenges. So we want to know what challenges is the industry facing now with this growth that you are predicting 7-8 years is going to be great for the industry.
Okay. No, thank you for asking. I think I have a flight to catch, so I'll be leaving a little early, and I'm sorry for this, but this is a good question about the challenges part. When there is growth, we need to all look at are we managing growth properly, particularly in our industry? Are we able to, number one, ensure that in an elevator context that we are giving the value that the customers, they've trusted us with that value. Are we able to install it on time? That's extremely important. Secondly, are we able to do everything very safely? Not only in terms of the customer safety, that when he gets an elevator or an escalator, that's absolutely safe, but also our teams, whether they are doing everything safely, are they wearing helmets? And I tell our teams that, as an industry, we have become quite safe now. When you look at construction practices, we are becoming quite safe. But the culture in India is still not that safe. If you look at how we cross the roads, how we manage the traffics, that's a cultural thing. We say that we are very crowded, that's why it happens, but so is Japan. But they follow a very, very nice way. So with growth, as we are growing in population, as we are growing in residential construction, etc., safety becomes paramount importance, and that's why it's our job to ensure that we lead this way for safety in India. So these are the two main challenges I see: managing growth, ensuring that the product is of the right quality and given to the customer, and ensuring that it's all safely done.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Thanks for setting the pace here for the panel discussion. Now, my next question is to Mr. Jatin. I have a very pertinent question. Most of the developers spend a lot of money in designing their facades, their interiors, their lobbies. But do you think they are open to spending on technology, especially for the vertical transportation? They look at it mostly as an expense rather than providing something great, a very innovative thing, a selling point for their building.
Thank you for having me here. Uh, the days have gone when elevator was considered as an expense. Thanks to both you gentlemen sitting here who have been advising the developers and telling them how to design, how to do a lift traffic analysis, the codes which have been written with everyone being participative in writing a good code, good ISC codes, good NBC 2016, and all of them are going to get upgraded now. Most of the grade A elevator manufacturers are also on the board of those codes. So I think it is now, as sir mentioned, it is not a baggage, it's a necessity, it's a lifestyle, it's a product, it is something which developers wants to show. It's a grade A developer. So if you walk in today to a good building, you will see a higher ceiling, more luxurious door openings, which were earlier restricted to 900 mm, and we're trying to tag in wider cars, more speeds, more functional things. So technology is helping in a way because it is also educating the end users on what to experience on an elevator, what are the safety features, what are the IoT connected devices, and how to maintain a developer. So development is no more restricted to just doing a construction. It has also moved towards operations, maintenance, and other life cycles. So in a nutshell, just to answer you, it is changing and it is good for all of us. In last 10 years, it has been a phenomenal change. Yeah.
So, Dr. Sujit, Uh, as an architect, how do you perceive that your clients are looking at new technology adaptation when you actually tell them what exactly do they need in elevators? And in general, as an architect, what do you think should be the new technologies which should be present in the elevators and how useful they are to the end users?
Well, I would begin with a small digression. You see, the lift industry is pretty looking at small drops in the ocean, and I see a ocean unaddressed by the lift industry. You see, the largest, when you say my clients, they are like, I have a city CEO as a client to end villa client. A city would look at urban mobility. Let's say in Bombay, when a train splurges out 5,000 people and they have to get out of the station in 3 minutes, 5 minutes, escalators work to a little extent, but that's the only good solution. We don't have that 7 door lifts coming down 5 floors at high speed. We don't work with one way in, one way out kind of lifts. We work even in a railway station. Look at the lift we have provided. We have provided stretcher lifts in railway stations, which means people would enter, stand in a line, go inside, and they will push each other to come out. We are not made broad elevators. Our standard specifications are mundane. We look at 68 kg per person. You look at a 14 or a 13 passenger or a 10 passenger elevator, can you ever put 10 people inside it? So fundamentals about sizes, breadth, operations are all very, I mean, it needs a complete rethink. But when it comes to technology, the first and foremost is safety. The lift industry in the last 30 years, I have been working with the first Bharat Bijali lift I installed to the EC lifts to the current day Schindler, Kone lifts. We have seen a huge change. In my own time, I have seen a bullock cart become a spacecraft. But there is still a lot to do because we still have issues of gyro failures, automatic braking systems and all, which is built in very well. But to a large extent, I still feel that the unbranded market, which operates roughly 50% of the tier 2, tier 3 cities, is a very unregulated market. And that unregulated market, unless it is policed, we would have lifts with people losing their hands and legs, people falling down into. We had an architect friend who actually fell into a elevator pit and died. So the point is, you have times when the lift doors open and the lift cage hasn't come, but these are minimized to a large extent in the branded segment. And the branded segment is barely 6 or 7 large brands like the Tyson Groups and the Mitsubishis and the Otis and the Kones and Schindlers and so on. But the unbranded segment, which is a large amount of small mobility in the tier 3 cities or tier 2 cities with unbranded builders, it's a huge challenge. So I think the lift mobility industry should look at setting up benchmarks of practice, standards of operation, the ability to cater to, let's say, 500 people going down a VT station up and down, or one of the metro stations when they come out. We still go to, in Bangalore at least, you have metro elevators, escalators to go up and down. In Delhi, most of the older done metro stations have only steps to go down and elevator, escalators to come up. Now somebody is physically challenged, they have to go to a lift which is literally outside the building, and then it is not rain protected. There are many issues in design. So I think we have a Pandora's box here, and Gossain Saab or the industry as such, if we wake up to the responsibility of design and the integration of technology into that responsible design, that would do very well.
Thank you, sir. I have a question for Mr. Amit. A very interesting question, though. I feel it's interesting because we're all from the elevator industry. How eager are the new gen elevator engineers eager to sell new technology?
So, okay, this is a out of the box question, but a very good question, and it's a very interesting question. And I could say, KK, that they're very, very keen. You know, if you look at, and I'm talking only, if you look at our company itself, we have close to about 1,500 engineers in our technology center. You kind of seen it. out of which I think over 11 to 1200 would be the next gen young engineers working on things that we can't think of. You know, when you look at some of the aspects of even aesthetics, they said, why is an elevator car only got these four designs? I'm giving you an example. Why do you have only stainless steel, one blue color, one red color? Why are there no designs? A car today, an automobile car, has got so many different colors. So one of the engineer architect, she created 35 different color combinations inside the car. And I was thinking, how are we going to paint all this? So now because she's created this, we thought what's the interest in the customers now, mind. So customer said, yes, we'd like to see different combination, because now an elevator is not only a box going up and down, a safe box up and down, but it's also a trend, right? It has to be trendy. When you come, especially villas, bungalows, the gentleman in the morning was saying, that has to be a little trendy and look nice. So we actually, for that design, we created a big paint shop to give all these designs. Then somebody comes up and says, you know, one engineer, I've got this small, and I looked at some of the component manufacturers here, they've got very unique designs. But they said, you know, why is there music and lights? Why don't you have that? You know, I'm just thinking of the next gen. There should be some music light when I'm going. I said, you travel only 20 seconds, right? Do you need music and lights? Yes, of course. That 20 seconds is important, right? So rather than putting on a headphone and going, I'd like to hear music. So then we started designing music and lights for customers. And I can say when they designed it, more and more old gen, not the young gen, people started liking it. And now they're asking for those kind of different combinations. So your question on young generation, looking at design softwares to make elevators very different, very agile, is very, very prominent, I must tell you. And I think the younger the engineers, when they come out of engineering colleges and you come out and meet them, you yourself start feeling that they've got a lot of these good ideas. And I think the world is changing very, very quickly in terms of idea generation. That's how artificial intelligence, IoT, they all came out of that, right? And most of these big companies like Facebook, Insta, all this were by youngsters who created these huge companies. So technology wise, I think, and especially I'd say that we have a gender diversity issue in India. A lot of people were saying that the girls are not coming forward as much as, you know, you don't see them in employment, but when you look at the engineering technology centers today, 50% or more are generally girls coming out with unique ideas. So it's quite big, KK, let me tell you. And a lot of things will change in our industry, real estate industry, with a lot of ideas being generated, especially on sustainability as well.
So, Mr. Jatin,
Does that answer your question or?
so now there are codes which are there which mandate certain safeties and all those things. But in terms of new technologies, do you think like Internet of Things is there, smart elevators, these things should get into mandatory codes or something like that? And how do your clients see this new technology to be adapted into their elevator in their projects?
Jagdish, just to, I would say the codes which are available, which are manufacturing codes, I mean, sir can also tell us about that. But if you go to Europe or you go to US, there are standard codes which have been specified, whether it's Euro standards or whatever, be it to a smaller component to a larger component. Uh, Unfortunately, we are still not there, right? There are, if you leave the top couple of good companies, not all companies are in compliant to established standard code of manufacturing, right? Or a standard code of design, or a standard shape, or a standard size of an elevator. Today, an architect, I'm sure they struggle to, even because they have to choose between various brands, they don't know how to size an elevator, because it's a different sizing as you were mentioning. So one is we need to still walk a lot of path on getting the codes implemented right from the manufacturing level for all levels of manufacturers, to to even getting into the basics like how to do a lift traffic analysis. There is no code written on that. And it's a perception of how I engage an X person or a Y person or Z person. I don't engage anyone. It's still done on a square foot basis. Some of the architects still do it on a square foot basis, or some of the developers still run on a calculator and say kitna elevator kyun chahiye. Destination control, right? I'm sure lot many people don't know how to handle a destination control. I have walked into many buildings myself where if I'm pressing, my people below don't press, right? Behind don't press. So the whole logic of destination control doesn't works, right? So the education on how to use a destination control device, education on how to integrate a turnstile with a mobility card with an access control right from the front, it's not there. So I'm not sure whether the codes and standards are going to help us, but implementation is what is important to be used. And implementation can only happen if the government gets serious on implementing it. Various states today have so-called codes being written, but they really are not being implemented. We have still just get a CIG inspectorate certificate and we're happy to get a lift license and forget about it. Just forget about it. So unfortunate, this is what it is, but we are progressing. It's not so bad, I would say. We have come very far ahead and we are educating ourselves, but we need to educate more people.
Thank you. Now I have a question for everyone. Just one question, last. This question for everyone. What is that one technology that you expect to be introduced in the vertical transportation systems that you feel would change the way people look at VHT? So I want to start with Jatin, then Mr. Amit, then we have. Okay.
One technology which will change the elevator.
Change the way we look at VHT systems. Change the way we perceive VHT systems, vertical transportation systems.
I would, the technology, something which he mentioned just now, a dynamic interior, of an elevator, so that, I mean, day before yesterday or something, I was watching a video. We have a fashion designer who has designed a dynamic dress. So you wear the same dress and you still go out and, with the press of a button, you can change it in the same party. So can we have something which is a dynamic visual elevator design, so it becomes more of an experience which you are working on, I guess, but that's something which will eventually take the elevator industry to the next level. Expectations, sir.
I think excellent. You stole my part, and I'll leave the other dynamic things for the architect to talk about. I'll talk something more basic. I think we need to have a system in elevators that can make it foolproof safe, that the thing is never going to fail, right? That's the technology we need, that when people go in, they know they're as safe as walking here on the road. Not on the road, but the road here, like walking here. So that's how, that's the technology we need to have, and it's coming, it'll happen.
At my end, I think primarily it should be mass mobility which is not addressed, and for individual mobilities to in packs of 10s, 15s, 20s, we've done great strides. So I think more technology, I think today is more like, if you go to the Kumbh Mela, you have about 5 crore people coming into the city, going through ups and downs, and most places it's very difficult. Imagine a city that you could have people move across seamlessly, whether it's travelators, escalators, elevators, all as a VHT system, which is seamless, weatherproof, and fault proof. You could do 5 lakh round trips good, but that one mistake sets you back. So, like you said, 100% foolproofing or fault proofing, which is weather sensitive and which is easily maintainable. It's a large this thing. So as per technology, I think it's more of mass mobility address primarily that we could do, rather than what we've already excelled in doing, capsule form mobility.
So Amit, one last question for you before you leave. The need for national lift policy.
So Dr. Sujit just said very important and I think extremely important. I think the Lift Act, which is there in the country today, a basic Lift Act is so important. Again, we talk about safety, that there has to be some minimum specifications by every manufacturer. We want more make in India, but every manufacturer should have some minimum specification that make the elevators safe. And many manufacturers follow that minimum standard and much more. I know we do, and so do lot of other manufacturers. But there are states in India which do not have Lift Act. They allow you to have elevators that don't have that minimum specification requirement, which is not for an aesthetic purpose, but from a safety perspective, it can be really bad. So it's extremely important that there is a uniform Lift Act across the country. In the EMA division of Association of Elevator and Escalator, we are pushing the government to do that, and the government needs to do it like they have these standards on emissions for environment in automobile. That similar importance or more importance is for Lift Act in elevators, so that everybody manufactures to a minimum safety standard, and it's not a big deal. It might increase the cost of some manufacturers a little bit, but that's fine. It will make everybody safe, and like Dr. Sujit and you said, aesthetically good. Jatin said, and you said, make it very, very safe and foolproof. That will happen.
So I think thank you very much, all panelists. Thanks, it was wonderful interacting with you. Thank you very much for being in this panel. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks to all the panelists. I just quickly will sum up in a minute what exactly we spoke. Amit spoke about the industry ups and downs, how the economy is becoming robust. It was very good till 2014, but 2024 onwards, next 7 to 8 years, how good the industry is going to be. And with focus on affordable housing, government doing it, foreign direct investments, and real estate in sync with the elevator technologies adaptation. Amit spoke on national lift policy, safety at sites, then next gen needs in new technologies in elevators, how important it is. Coming to Mr. Jatin, you spoke about code upgradations. Elevator is no longer a necessity, but elevator has no luxury of space, technology, and the safety features of highest standards. However, there are, you stressed upon the need for standard codes for manufacturing. Dr. Sujit, you have clearly stressed upon a very important point, which is like in major used urban spaces, the need for efficient mobility. That's the need, and need for mandates in codes in terms of new technology. And Jatin was talking about dynamic interiors and 100% safe elevators is what Amit was mentioning. So overall, thanks for the panelists for a very interactive and very informative discussion on this. Thank you so much.
Thank you, panelists. I would request you all to remain seated since Mr. Gossain has to leave. I request Anita ma'am to give him this token of appreciation. The rest of the panel, I request you to stay back because we are going to have a question and answer round with the audience. Thank you, Mr. Gossain, for joining us today. I now leave the floor open for questions. If there are questions from the audience to any member of the panel, we are circulating a mic. You can just raise your hand and ask your question. Is there anything more that you would like the speakers to add to the topics that were discussed today? Please raise your hand and the mic will come to you. I guess everyone is reserving their questions to ask the experts offline. Sir, is there anything more that you would like to add? You're done? All right. Can you please step ahead for a photo opportunity? And I request Anita ma'am to hand over the mementos to all our speakers. A round of applause for all of them. It was a riveting discussion.
Love that takes you higher, I will forever be intertwined with you. And the sun never goes down, time slows down.
Can we also have a group picture, please?